Thank you, Gabby. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Vera Rose. Okay, so I have a story today that many of you will probably recognize, especially if you are an adult and you grew up in a Christian church or tradition. You will have definitely heard this story before. This is a story that Jesus told, and it's one of the parables. Parables are stories that have like a meaning or teach a lesson. I love this story because there are three main characters in it, and at different points in my life, I have felt or acted or resonated with all three of these characters. And I bet you have too. So, and when I tell the story, you're going to try to think about if you've ever felt like these characters, okay? Once, there was a man. He was a farmer. He was a very wealthy farmer. He had a big farm, lots of workers, lots of animals. He made a lot of money. And he had two sons. One day, the younger son said to his father, "Father, I want my inheritance now." Now, if you don't know, an inheritance is money or property or whatever that you get after someone dies. But the younger son wanted his inheritance now, before his father died. And the father agreed. And so he sold some things and made it so that he could give half of his money to his younger son. And the younger son took the money, and he went off into the big city, and he lived it up. He had a blast. He spent all of his money on lots of really fun things. Maybe you've had times in your life where you want to just run off and do fun stuff and not do other stuff that maybe is on your to-do list. You would rather just run off to the big city and do fun stuff. I don't know if you've ever felt that way. I have. So that's what the younger brother did. He went off and did fun stuff. Except he spent all of his money on fun stuff. And then he didn't have any money. And right at that same time, there was a famine in the land. A famine is a time when no food is growing, so people were really hungry. And the younger brother had no money, no food, so he found a place to work. He found a farm to work at because he had farm skills. And he was working for a man, and his job was to feed the pigs. And one day as he was feeding the pigs, and he looked down at the food that the pigs were eating, and he realized that that food was even better than the food he himself was eating at that time because he didn't have money for food. And he realized that on his father's farm, the workers were treated really well. They always had food. They always had shelter. They had clothing. And so the younger son decided that he would go back to his father's farm, and he would beg his father to let him work there as a servant. You see, the younger son felt like he had made a big mistake. He felt ashamed. He felt like his father wasn't going to forgive him. He felt like it wasn't even worth it for him to call himself a son anymore. But maybe his father would take him back as a servant. So the young man, the younger son, went back. And it says that as he was walking down the road, his father saw him from way off. And his father ran to him and hugged him. And his father called his servants and told them to bring him fine clothes and sandals for his feet and rings for his fingers. His father said, "Let us prepare a great feast." And the younger son said, "Father, I have wronged you. I have wronged God in heaven, and I have wronged you. I do not deserve to be called your son anymore. But would you allow me to work for you as a servant?" And the father said, "What are you talking about? You are my boy. It was like you were dead, and now you are alive. You were lost, and now you are found, and we will celebrate." Maybe you've had a time in your life where you felt like the father, where someone that you loved has come back. And maybe even they did something to you that hurt you or upset you, but they've come back into your life, and it is a time for great joy and celebration. And so there was a huge party, but there's one character we haven't talked about yet, and that's the older brother. How many of you are older siblings? I'm an older sibling. Okay. So the older brother, who's been at the farm this whole time, he hears this commotion. There's a huge party happening. Nobody told him there was going to be a party. And he asks one of the servants, what's going on? And the servant said, your brother has come home, and your father is throwing a huge party. And the older brother, he got so mad, like stomping your feet, scrunching up your hands, mad. Because this whole time he had been there. He had been doing the work. He was being the responsible older brother. And his younger brother just went off, squandered all his money, and came back, and now there's a big party. What's up with that? So the father came out, because the older brother wouldn't even go in the house. The father came out, and he talked to the older brother, and he said, and the older brother explained, I'm not going in there. I've been here with you. I've done everything you've asked. You haven't ever thrown a party for me or my friends. But my brother, the irresponsible one, goes off, and then he comes back and you throw a big party. It's not fair. It's not fair. And the father said, I understand, but your brother, it was like he was dead, and now he is alive. He was lost, but now he is found. And that is something we will celebrate. And that's where the story ends. Maybe you've been the younger brother sometimes. Maybe you've been the older brother sometimes. Maybe you've been the father sometimes. Thank you for listening to my story today.